Welcome to the Amplus Forms online training. During this module, we'll teach you about the action field and discuss how to manage its unique properties when creating a form. Please take a look at the Module 1A on Basic Properties, Common Features for instruction on the basic properties associated with fields. So when you add an action field to your design panel, as always, we'll give it a data name, so we're just going to call this action, and our title text will be action field, and we'll give it a bit of bold. Now again, you can add a hint text here if you needed. Below the hint text is action buttons. Here you can set up the buttons you wish to appear by position on the screen and how many buttons you want. Each button can be set up to have a separate action, and you can also choose to make the colours different and a different font, and also you can make them small, medium or large. Now by default, our center button 3 has tap here in the action button text area just here. Buttons will only show up in the app if text is entered into this text field. So let's click on button 1, and let's say for instance we're going to use email for this one. We can change the background color if we want to another color. Let's make this let's say red. Now because we've created this as an email, we now have to drop into user interaction that you can see here. If I do the drop down menu here, you will see create email to. So I'm going to press the create email to. Once you've decided on how many buttons, colors and defined what each button is to be used for, we can now set up the user interaction property. Now within the drop down menu that you just saw there in the interaction area, you can see there are things like dial number, exit without saving, force sync for instance, jump to from location, open a doc, open a screen, open a web browser link, and many more. But once you've chosen an interaction, other requirements will show up depending on your choice. They could be a target interaction drop-down list where we pass the parameters into the interaction. You could do a reload, on return, none action, or a combination of these. So for example, if we use the interaction jump from location, so I'm going to create this one here and call this next. I'm going to change this now to jump to location. And here the target for interaction now will be next page. Or we could change this one, the tab here, and we could change this to previous. And this time the jump to location would be previous page. And below user interaction we have layout and styling. The first two properties in there, background color and field layout, are covered in the module 1A, common properties. I would like to draw your attention to this flexible columns property. Now by default buttons are shown in fixed positions on your screen, but by clicking here the flexible columns option will instead use flexible columns, which means positions will be determined by the number of buttons. Now as we scroll down just below validation and behavior here, you will see required. By clicking here, I am forcing the user to answer before they can continue using the form. Now we're going to go down to where we've got advanced options, and just inside here we have always trigger on button. By default, buttons will only trigger dependent formulae once on the first time a user taps. But we can use this option to specify that the formulae must be triggered every time the button is pressed. So if we click here, now this is useful in scenarios such as counters or clickers where the fields value increments on each button press. Now below there you will see interaction result. By default, this field is populated with the title of the button last pressed by the user. This option lets you specify a static answer value that is always set into this field no matter which button is pressed. The last property we'll discuss in this module is display result to user. If you want to display the field's result to the user as an inline text below the buttons, you would check here. And the value displayed would either be the title of the last button pressed or the interaction result if specified. Now, as you can see, there were more properties in validation and behavior and the advanced options, and you will find these covered in common property modules. Now, of course, the best way for you to learn is by doing so. We encourage you to create a new screen or form, add fields and play with the properties within them. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to email support@amplusforms.com.